Hey guys, welcome back to Footy from the West Coast. And appreciate all of the love on the first video. So we're back with another, much to everyone's chagrin, I'm sure. But let's get into it. Today we're going to have a chat about a round 14 fixture of North versus West Coast. Again, North home game, but at Optus Stadium due to that little deal. They're making a bit of cashola North, so good on them for getting a win out of it. A little late on this one. I was actually playing footy myself when this game was on, so I finally finished the watch back, and I already know the result, so it allowed me to remove a bit of that emotion out of it to truly be able to analyse the game. So let's get into it. First quarter, North absolutely had the better of us, and like the story has been a few times this year, opposing teams with dominance haven't really been able to put us away completely, which has been really lucky for us, to not have to come back from too far back, which is actually the opposite of our fixture earlier in the year where North piled on the first 6 goals, yet we did come back to win. Darling looked absolutely monstrous. Which, that's a story in itself, hurts for us in particular. And it sort of proved what we all feared with the loss of Rube and, of course, Harry Edwards earlier in the year. We're really going to struggle against these taller forward lines. And North doesn't even have one of the better ones. So that's certainly a watch for us. The goal and the free kick for another goal was really lucky for us to end up bringing the game back under our terms and the lead at quarter time. Harley was electric. He was really imposing himself on the game, and I was really excited, at this stage to see what Harley could do in the back end. But the quarter ends with the score being 17-22 in the Eagles' favour. Now, the second quarter, 2 goals, 3, and a disallowed Waterman goal, which was just really momentum breaking, I think. And, at a point we had 90% time in our forward half for a 20-minute patch. We scored 2 behinds. You just have to be able to capitalise in the modern game. And it's been a weak part of us and something that needs to be addressed. With all of that dominance, we still lose the quarter. And towards the end, the Roos really got on top. And the difference being they took those opportunities, which is really draining. One as a player, but as a supporter as well. Like, you just have to take your chances. End of the quarter, scored 38-37 in North's favour. Moving on into the third, North continued on as they did in the end portion of the second quarter, and they had 6 goals in a row during this term, and our defensive structure and shape went awry. There was a few times that you can notice a clear lack of talk, communication out there, which led to a few goals. That Sheasel snap deep in the forward 50 is one moment I recall vividly. The guy had 10 metres of space. He's their best player. Like, what are we doing? And then, about 25 metres out, straight in front of goal, Young and Lindsay both spoil each other. Larky gets the crumbs and goals. Just little moments like that, in a low-scoring game, you can't afford to have that. Highlight, though, Shanahan's defensive marks were incredible. His ability to read the ball, and especially in the intercepting space, and he gets that elevation of his fully stretched arms, and that's really impressive. He really does remind me of that Ben King arm stretch. He really gets them up there and still has that strength to have the mark at such an elevation, which is really amazing. Now, moving on to the fourth, again, it's a story of missed opportunities, really. Again, talking about that composure piece. A couple of times we were sprinting through the corridor, we had the numbers, and just some horrid possessions. And it'll come with time, but our rawness just showed, really. And that led us to really dominate that last quarter, but unable to get ahead of the Roos, who really slowed up. And, it just had to be Jake Waterman, didn't it? You really feel for the guy. You really do. I can think of a few that want to be in that position in the first place, and definitely not someone who's as out of confidence as they are right now as Jake. Now, in summation, it's pretty short. Larky, Darling, 4 goals each. That's 8 of North's 10 goals coming from 2 players in a position we knew we'd have difficulty in. Bad week to not have at least Jimby. Frustrating, but that's footy. We couldn't capitalise on our chances, which, as I've mentioned, is the story of us for this year, and it is something to be excited about in the future, though, when our boys are more developed mentally and skillfully, far better. And just going through a few key stats, we actually won the inside 50 account. The end tally being 50 to 44. And like I've spoken about, the story that has been us this year. 10 goals, 13, which in the end is how we lose. Our composure when we enter 50 at times is genuinely shocking and something I hope we are working on, because we are winning these counts and we just have to capitalise. 72 tackles for North to West Coast 46 is a bit of a horror stat for me. And our pressure on the ball carrier was clearly down from previous weeks. Maybe the bye comes at a good time for us. I know a lot's been said about the free kick tally as well, with North at 31 to West Coast 24, which is a lot of officiating, but it didn't frustrate me particularly. Now just move into some pros and cons. Now the pros, the game style we want wasn't on show today, with our lack of pressure, but we're still generating inside 50s and opportunities to score. A bit of polish on entry and finishing will make all the difference. Job Shanahan's, my man, he had a really slow first half, and I remember David King, saying, we need something from Shanahan. He hasn't done much yet. We need a lift from the young man. And then clunk, clunk, clunk. He's got hands like the jaws of life, and it gives me life. I'm truly excited for his future at the club. As again, like we've spoken about, he has some terrific traits, and love his set shots on goal and just his ability to make moments his, and does well when he has those moments. Tim Kelly, again, having a great performance in a stellar year, which is wonderful to see. I'm the first person to put my hand up and say that I thought Tim was done. He was the most frustrating player for me for a long time. He caused us to be in the hole we've been in for so long. That we got crushed at the draft, at the trade table, from Geelong, and that rhetoric that I'm sure most of us fans have had. But he's had a wonderful year and continued on today, which I'm just thrilled about, honestly. Oh, Herbie, Mr. Herbert. We knew exactly what to expect from this guy. Composure with ball in hand, and that's exactly what we got. He took the game on, he knows his limits and executes cleanly. He'll be an asset for sure, and didn't seem fazed by the pace of the game differential between State League and the big time at all. I think he did the same step move about 3 times. He's got that confidence. He's got that composure. He knows what he wants to do, and he does it. And those are the type of players that we absolutely need in this team moving forward. And, I said it the week of the mid-season draft, or every draft, really. If there's a player in a Geelong system, a coach in a Geelong system, we should be looking at them. It's a system that works. And I think we've got a great one in Herbie. Now, Jakey Waterman, he could go in both pros and cons here. I actually saw an incredible stat online that he's already had more shots on goal than his All-Australian year. And if he was kicking for goal at his career average, he'd actually be winning the Coleman right now by 3 or 4 goals. But as we know, that's not the reality we live in. But to be leading the AFL in score involvements for a team that's in the bottom 4 is terrific. And when that confidence shifts back the other way, look out. Moving on to some cons, our defensive mix and setup. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we were always going to struggle without Rubes and Harry Edwards, are 2 key posts down back that are very important for us, as we do look dreadful without them. Youngie just isn't a first or second option, and you can tell when he's that number 1. It doesn't look great. And No McCarthy also made it a very new back 6 for us, especially considering Herbert's first game, Lindsay being a first-year player for us. It showed that they hadn't played much together. Our defensive shape and set-off was off in transition, which is pretty normal for us, but made even worse without Rubes and Harry to sort of organise things and cover off. And without Joe being back there a majority of the time, who's a really good interceptor and reader of the ball, we just don't have that in Bazzo and Young. But Bazzo, I think, played great, but shape-wise, consistency and communication just wasn't there. And with inside 50 stoppages were also a massive concern. And you can see some of the boys just didn't know where to be, or at least communicating with each other. And again, like I talked about with that Sheezel goal, those things just can't happen. And that shows the immaturity of our back 6 in working together, I think. Now, Starcevic, naturally, he's having a slow start. from his return to football, but it's really slow. He's really not adjusting to the pace/fitness level yet, which is frustrating. But we do need to give him time. In the sense, it's just not a time where we can allow additional cover in the back line with our outs in that space. It makes us really, really hard to cover someone who's not, don't want to say up to the standard, but maybe up to the fitness level and, just that game awareness yet. Oh, Liam Duggan's stupid mistakes. I just, again, I'm not number one hater of Liam, but he frustrates me more than any player in the AFL potentially. And if he didn't have that big C next to him, he would not be in this team. And I certainly don't have him in my best 23. That rando kick on the full on his opposite foot, the 60 metres straight up forward 50 entry. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, a captain can't be doing these things. His defensive intent was good. That's what he is. He's a defender. We've got Lindsay and Herbert to be distributors. We don't want you distributing. And his mistakes and errors are far more impactful than when he's got the ball in hand or when he does something good defensively. 9 turnovers is generational. We just cannot have that, and we absolutely cannot have that from a captain of our football club. And we've got the bye now, which is a great chance for our boys to get some rest and get ready for a bloody hard end of the year. Our fixture for the rest of the year is tough, and I was really banking on snagging 1 or 2 of these last 2 games as wins because I don't see many more, if any, for the rest of the year. But excited to see how we close out the year. If it's not wins that are coming to the Eagles, I want to see that intent. I want to see our game plan and game style, and I just don't want to see the huge losses that we've had over the last few years. We just can't go back to being that team. Losses are okay, but you need to be competitive in those losses. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.